Welcome to Mirfield, a little town nestling in the West Yorkshire countryside. This busy, attractive place is home to the Community and College of the Resurrection, which is hosting the Anglican Lutheran Society's conference. More than 60 people are taking part. Many of them have travelled long distances to get here, from as far away as Greenland in the north, the Nordic and Baltic states, Germany, Central and Eastern Europe, Tanzania and South Africa, and the UK and Ireland. We were all welcomed by Roy Long on behalf of the conference committee, and Father Oswin, the prior of the Community of the Resurrection.
We are an Anglican religious community of brothers from different countries around the world, and we were founded in the late 19th century and moved a few years later here to Mirfield. There are now 22 of us as brothers in the community, and we take vows for life. One of the community's abiding interests from the early days and sense of calling has been to understand and promote the unity in Christ that we have as Christians. And this conference here will be another chapter for us in that story.
Our evening session today was led by Monica Schofield. She's an engineer by profession and spent part of her career in robotics where, she said, she knew what it was like to create something that behaved in unexpected ways. She's now based in the Hamburg University of Technology, and her role involves advising researchers, industry and policymakers, including the European Commission, in issues to do with sustainability, wealth creation and the public interest. Recently she's been giving some thought to the role faith leaders might play in helping to reform the economic systems. Her title was Visions, Values and Changing Mindsets, Working Together to Transform the World. She began by telling us that by the year 2050, the population of the world will have risen from 6.9 billion today to around 9 billion people. It is estimated that it will take the resources of 2.3 Earths to sustain that number of people. This is clearly nonsensical. So what can we do to enable 9 billion people to live well within the limits of the planet? That is the question raised by Vision 2050, a pathway towards sustainability created by a number of thinkers from the business community. Monica challenged us conference members to consider the role that churches and other faith communities might play in ensuring the futures of our children and grandchildren. Clearly everything hinges on a shared vision to which people are committed and shared values. But where do these values come from, she asked. Who speaks for the poor? Who can push the agenda? Who crosses local, national and international boundaries? Among others, the churches do. So what will our roles be as ministers in the years leading up to 2050? Monica presented us with some challenging scenarios to discuss in our groups. Will there be sacred spaces in the cities of the future? Are we in a position to change corporate values? What do theologians have to offer the world? Can we act as mediators in local decision-making? There was a lot of lively discussion. Clearly we couldn't provide answers, but afterwards people agreed that Monica had succeeded in setting an agenda for their own thinking and their understanding of Christian ministry. Here's Jojan, a Lutheran theology student from Belgium.
I had no idea that that sort of conversations were actually going on in boardrooms. It is a topic that theology studies never touch on. I think it puts theology back with 2 feet solidly on the ground and discusses items maybe more materialistic and businesslike and science-like that theologians might not always be comfortable with because they sort of prefer the heavenly spheres. And it was very interesting to see that, to be given this challenge, and how will we as theologians and as Christians and as churchgoers, even if we want to be involved in that sort of discussions, and if so, how are we going to entertain that dialogue?
And Blanche, who's training to be a pastoral assistant in London, agrees.
I think our group found the question challenging, but we also thought that with those challenges were opportunities for us as Christian people to make a mark on what's going on, and that we cannot sit on the fence and think it's somebody else's problem, that as Christians we have a role to play, and that role involves putting the message across, working with people, and winning hearts and minds at boardroom level. But also because of our position, we need to take our communities with us, because there's no point a priest trying to win the hearts and minds of the boardroom and forget about the congregation or the community we serve.
So you're saying that when Monica described the pastor or the vicar as the go-between, you warmed to that?
Yes, we did. Because certainly mediation, trying to build bridges between people and communities, in this case business, and also the users of the output of business, because they're related somehow, we see as a legitimate part of our role as pastors.
Well, it's such a global issue that affects local communities so directly. And I think as clergymen and women, we have to be prepared, more and more prepared, to step out of the theological comfort zone, out of the historical zone, out of the biblical texts and archaeology, and start looking at other disciplines and other sciences, and maybe listen to the voice of those clergymen and women who have had other professions before they went into the ministry, and listen more to their experiences, listen more maybe perhaps to businessmen and women who have crossed over, so to speak, and how they have related that in their lives.
The day ended with brief night prayers. A full account of Monica Schofield's presentation and more reaction to it will appear in the October edition of The Window. The conference has started well. Now we wait to see what Tuesday's programme will bring.